Today we're going to talk about doing long division by hand. I know that calculators can do it for you much faster, but the process itself is useful to learn because there's another topic that is related to it, which we call polynomial division, which is the same process as long division, so it's useful to learn how to do it by hand. So today we're going to start out with a simple one. We're going to divide 6 into 1,286. Okay, so we first begin by looking. So the process is we first start with, we basically just cover up all of these other numbers and we ask ourselves, will 6 divide into 1? No, 1 is much smaller than 6. So it's kind of like the Price is Right. We want to, when we choose something, we want to choose something that multiplies to get it, but without going over the number. So since 1 is smaller than 6, we move over, and now we have 12. And actually 12 is larger than 6. And in fact, 6 times 2 is equal to 12. So we'll write the 2 up here, up above the 12, right above the 2, and then we multiply the 6 times 2, which is 12, and we put it below the original. Now we're going to subtract. 12 minus 12 is 0. And then the process goes, we bring down the next number. So now we have 8. Okay? So now we think, how many times can I multiply 6 that's less than or equal to 8? So 6 times 1 is 6, right? I'm using the 8, so that's where my 1 goes, is above it. 1 times 6 then goes here, and I subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. And now I bring down my last number that I have, which is the 6. Now I have 26. How many times will 6 go into 26 without going over? 6 times 4 is 24. So 6 times 5 is 30, so that's too many, so we might need to stick with the 4. So we write the 24 here, and we subtract. We end up with 2. Now I'm out of numbers to bring down, so in fraction form, our answer could be written as 214 and 2/6, or I could simplify that fraction to 214 and 1/3. I could also write it as a decimal, but with polynomial division, it's very useful if we write our remainders as fractions, so that's the way I'm doing it today. All right, so let's try something a little bit, another example. We're going to this time take 5 and divide it into 365,008. Okay. So this time, right, I start out covering up all my numbers except for the 3, but 5 is larger than 3, so we'll go one more number. 5 will divide into 36. So 7 times 5 is 35, so that's what we will use. If I go to 8, then it's 40, and that's too big. I write my 35 underneath here, and I subtract straight down. I have 1. I bring down my next number here, which is a 5. So 5 times 3 is exactly 15, so that's perfect. I write the 15 underneath here, I subtract, and I end up with a 0. Okay? The next number that I want to bring down is a 0. So I brought a number down, and now I still have 0. And 5 times nothing, right? I can't divide. 0 isn't bigger than 5, so I can't divide this into it nicely. When that happens, when I bring down this number and this number is still smaller than this number, I put a 0 up here. Okay? I bring down my next number, also a 0. So I still, 0, 0, 0 is still smaller than 5, so I need to put another 0. So every time I bring down my number and my number will not divide into it because it's smaller than that, then I put a 0 on top. My last number I need to bring down is the 8, and at last I have something that I can divide my 5 into. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, so I know that's too big. I put my 5 here and I subtract and I get 3. I'm now out of numbers to bring down, and so my final, this is now my remainder. And so one way to write it is to write my answer as 73,001 and 3/5. All right, just one more with double digits. We'll practice. This time we'll take 12 and divide it into 1,384,821. All right, so again, right, I know I see the 1 here. The 12 won't divide into the 1, so 13 is the first number that's bigger than 12. So I'm going to write 12 times 1 is 13, or is 12. 13 minus 12 is 1. I bring down the 8. If I draw my arrows, then I'm less likely to miss them. That's why I draw them. All right, so 12 times 1 again is 12. 12 times 2 is 24, so that is too big. So I put my 1 up there. Again, I subtract. I get 6. So now I'm bringing down the 4 here. So I end up with 64. 12 times 5 is 60. So 12 times 6 is 72, so that is too large. When I subtract, I should never end up with a number that's larger than 12. If so, then I haven't chosen a big enough number on top. So I have 64 minus 60, I subtract. All right, so now I have a 4. Now I bring down my next number. I have 8. I know that 4 times 12 is 48. I subtract, I get 0. All right, I'm going to bring down my 2 as my next number. Oh, 2 is not larger than 12, so I need to put a 0. I bring down the 1 as my final number, and I know that 12 times 2 is 24, so that's too big, so it must be the 1. I subtract 12, and I end up with a remainder of 9. So my answer can be written as 115,401 and 9/12, or I can simplify that fraction. If I divide this number by 3 and this number by 3, I get 3/4. Oops, and that concludes my lesson on long division.